Welcome back, everyone, to the weekly Armchair Kickoff podcast. We're on our MMA show here today, and as always, we always do have a fantastic panel here today. Liam Griffin is sponsored there by Monster Energy, as he put in there at the start of the video. Liam Griffin is absolutely, repping Monster here today, so we're all full of energy here today on this fine, thirsty Thursday, on this Thursday evening. And as always, it is the return of Jamie Mackie Murphy. The return of the Mac is back on the MMA show here today. As he took a couple of months off the MMA show. So it's good to have Jamie back here today. And right below me, I am joined by Paulo D and Liam Griffin from the MMA Opinion. Fantastic podcast. Do check the dads out as well after this show. And they do cover all things MMA, UFC, Bellator, the lot. So do check them out. They're absolutely fantastic at what they do. So I'm going to get straight into it, lads. Obviously, we've a lot to talk about tonight in terms of the UFC in general here tonight. First off, I haven't talked to Liam. I haven't talked to you since our UFC 257 preview. I had you on our previous MMA podcast for Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier preview.
Did I get that right today?
We'll get to that there in a moment in terms of the prediction. But yeah, I had yourself on the UFC 257 preview, and we haven't chatted since then live on a show since that night. Obviously, look, if you're not living under a rock, though Conor McGregor unfortunately was defeated by Dustin Poirier in the rematch. They're both 1-1 now. For me, I was talking to Jamie that night, and this is the first time I've actually come on a podcast and actually talked about this, because I've been refusing to talk about it the last couple of weeks, because it's kind of tough to take being a massive Joe McGregor fan. But it is what it is. They're both 1-1. Liam, I'd just like to ask you first, what is your overall thoughts on the fight between Conor and Dustin, and kind of how it all came about?
Hang on there, I'm just going to go slip my wrists. No, well, look, I tell you, myself and Paul, we did a companion, like what do you call it? Like a podcast companion. So we were watching the fights live on a screen in front of us, and then podcasting at the same time. And like, we were hyped. Like, Paul was drunk and everything. I was high on caffeine, and we just got to the McGregor fight, and then literally we couldn't say a word. As soon as the fight was over, we were just depressed. I was nearly hanging from the rafters here. I was absolutely bait after it. But yeah, I mean, not in a million years would I have guessed that would be the outcome. And I suppose now with hindsight, I don't think anybody gave Poirier a shot. And that was a mistake. I think many pundits, me included, made that error there. He got caught with the leg kicks. Kind of didn't adjust fast enough. And Poirier, once he had him hurt, showed his typical killer instinct to kind of put the finish there. I mean, great performance by Poirier. I hate the man. I'm depressed. I haven't slept properly since. Yeah, I'm done now.
And just for our viewers, if you didn't catch the last podcast, we all had predictions to the fight, and Liam had a dubious prediction of a 30-second knockout for Conor McGregor. But that didn't
you
come
had to bring that up, didn't you? Kick a man while he's down, like.
Hey, look, if people are watching that know as well that I messaged Boyle Sports and I wanted to get a 60-second one myself. Unfortunately, I did not make that bet. I bitched out. But for me, I suppose, like, when I was watching that first round, I thought McGregor done well in stages in that round. So I did catch him with a couple of good shots. In the clinch, he actually didn't do too bad. I thought when Dustin took him down, when he was up against the fence, his head position was very good. I thought, he dealt well at the clinch, and he seemed to have, the gas tank was still there after the grappling exchanges, which, look, people criticize Conor for that, in terms of when he goes into a grappling exchange, that people say that he didn't have the gas tank. But I don't think cardio was an issue in this fight. I thought them calf kicks were definitely the massive issue there. I think he went in with a very kind of heavy boxing stance, which, look, to be fair, his hands look sharp in there at the time. He did land good shots. But when you have that type of stance, like, you can be susceptible to leg kicks. I think we've seen that when McGregor fought Diaz, when it was southpaw against southpaw. So McGregor took that approach, and that he chopped down Diaz's front leg. It was something kind of similar, with regards to it. So look, I think it's one of them things where I think if they do have the trilogy fight, which we will talk about later on in the show, that adjustments may be made in that regard. But it was just, for me, seeing him get stopped, it was disheartening. I was very disheartened. I remember even Jamie's my manager in work, and he messaged me on the Monday because Man United won on the Sunday. McGregor lost on the Saturday, so it was a mixed bag for me that weekend. I was happy but sad at the same time, And Jamie messaged me on the Monday morning, and Jamie said to me, "How are you feeling, boy?" I was like, "Do you know what? I should be delighted. We're after beating Liverpool, but do you know what? I'm still depressed off my head that McGregor's after losing." And it's just the fashion that he lost. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was just one of them things. I never could have pictured Conor McGregor getting knocked out. I think
you're kicking Paul while he's down now as well. Like,
oh shit! Sorry about that, Paul. But when
you're laying on take care.
But when Jamie said that to me that Monday morning, like, "How are you feeling?" I was like, "I should be delighted, but I'm fucking depressed." Like, do you know what I mean? It's just the whole seeing Conor lose. Being a massive Conor fan, it was very disheartening. But look, at the end of the day, it's one of them things when you follow any sport, where it's your favorite team, favorite fighter. Look, it's bound to happen at some stage, and it's like in any sport, it's just how they bounce back from it. I think that'd be a very interesting thing to see, kind of next coming months, kind of what kind of approach Conor takes in terms of if they do have the rematch. Paul, for yourself, again, we were saying it wasn't a great weekend for any of us that weekend, but
it was worse for Liverpool fans.
Yeah, definitely worse for a Liverpool fan. It was an especially tough weekend. I don't know about Liverpool losing or Conor losing, but that Conor lost, like he said above. It was just surprising more than anything. We didn't expect to see Conor lose again, but out and to see that, I suppose, the memes that came after with him lying on the ground, it's a tough one to take. But yeah, the Liverpool one was pretty better as well.
Do you know what though, right? At least when you look at it this way, at least you'll see Liverpool win a couple of more. See Liverpool win games this season. Like, you might be a couple more months before we see a Conor McGregor fight. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, in that respect, Liverpool bounced back like a week later after losing to United anyway. So like, it's all the one. Like, like, at least you had something to bounce back on. Like, the week after. In that respect, I think we're after losing Jamie. Jamie is after leaving the building. But like, look,
it's disgusted with the Liverpool chat.
But in terms of the fight itself, Paul, like, what did you feel about when Dustin was landing them leg kicks? Do you maybe think, like, during the fight that Conor was going to make an adjustment, or I think after taking one or two of them kicks that front leg was just shot?
So watching the fight on the podcast, and we remarked in the first round that he had been checking them, and it's very hard to tell how well he was checking them. So we couldn't see the damage that they were doing. Was that he got him against the cage in the second round, that you could see that McGregor was kind of compromised. But in the first round, he looked like he was handling it. Like, it wasn't until just before the finish, really, that you could see it coming. But look, McGregor did very well, and you could see how there his want for a rematch and want for a trilogy fight, and it does make sense to a certain degree.
And like, in terms of the trilogy fight, Liam, now there's been a lot of discussion that may happen in May. Now, obviously, with the UFC kind of lightweight title picture is kind of still up in the air. Khabib looks like to be meeting again with Dana White with regards to, I think there's rumors that Dana White may offer him Oliveira in that respect. For you, if Khabib relinquishes the title, does Dana White and the UFC dare to make the rematch, the trilogy for the title, considering Charles Oliveira had such a dominant win over Tony Ferguson?
Yeah, I mean, like, at the end of the day, I mean, okay, if it was a sporting league, then you would say no. You would say that it's Oliveira's turn next, but it's not. This is sports entertainment, and money talks, numbers talk. If I was to be completely fair about it, I would say Oliveira is next. But as an SBG teammate of McGregor, I'm obviously going to pull for him to get back in there as soon as possible. I think I mean, it does make sense to do a trilogy. I would perhaps like to see Conor take on someone else first, but I won't complain at all. Like the fact of the matter is that like nobody gave Dustin a chance in hell of winning this fight, so this was a massive upset. No matter what way you look at it, no matter how, like, okay, he got knocked down, arguably knocked out, but that was totally against the run of anybody's playbook. So there is an argument for an immediate rubber match there, considering that they are 1-on-1. I wouldn't like to. I mean, I feel sorry for Oliveira in this case, but numbers talk. What I would like to see is if Khabib relinquishes the title, that they automatically make Dustin the champion. I don't think it's fair to make the next fight a title fight. I think he should be champion now. If Khabib retires, Dustin is automatically champion, and I think that would be fair for what he's achieved this year. That would be my thoughts on it anyway.
Yeah, I agree. I think, look, like it's similar to what happened when John Jones got stripped for when he got popped by USADA. They gave the title to Daniel Cormier. In that regard,
that's what
I know
couldn't
that's.
Remember. I said that during the the companion thing, and I couldn't remember who they had done it for previously. We talked about Ronda Rousey getting an automatic title, even though she hadn't fought for a title. She got an automatic title, but I knew it had happened somewhere else. Good man, Keane.
Yeah, it was DC. Remember John Jones after UFC 214? He got popped for doing steroids again. I know Ryan Spillane would have a lovely comment about that if he was here tonight. With regards to, like, obviously that's what happened. DC got awarded the light heavyweight title, and then he fought, I believe, was Anthony Rumble Johnson. After that, I think that's who he fought. He defended the title against him, and that's when Rumble retired. But he's actually going fighting Romero in Bellator, which I think is absolutely madness. That's gonna be an absolutely fantastic fight. But Jamie, for yourself, what I know we were texting that night and we were just in utter disbelief when Conor lost. Kind of giving yourself a couple of weeks to reflect. What do you make of the whole fight itself?
It's funny actually that you're saying that, because the day after the fight we were kind of like, he just needs to stop and all this, and then days go on, and then weeks go on, and you're kind of like, no, actually the rematch makes perfect sense. You just go back into believing in him so quick. So I think the rematch is the one. I think that is the fight to make. As Liam said, this isn't a sporting league. This is who brings most arses to the seats, basically, and especially during COVID, I think that Dana would be looking to get the most amount of people to watch his product as possible. So Dustin and Conor makes perfect sense. I think there's enough narrative there too to make Conor still come into this fight really, really strong. And I think that's the most important part. I think that's the most important part with the fight. If it was a case that Dustin dominated him in the first round and the second round, then knocked him out, maybe it was a kind of a case that there is no case. But there is definitely a case for a rematch, because we've seen a lot of success for Conor in the first round. I don't think nobody thought that it would end in the second round by Poirier knocking him out. I don't think that was ever going through our heads. So if that's the case, then why not have the rematch? Why not have it and just start again? Like, it's basically, how long did the first fight start? Or last was 90 seconds?
40 seconds. I think it was 40.
40 seconds the first fight.
I think it was. Or no, was that the Cerrone fight? Sorry, that was Cerrone fight.
First fight, yeah.
Yeah, no, the first Poirier fight was 90 seconds. So if we put into context that the first round of the second match was basically even, and then Poirier got to finish in the second round after 90 seconds to 2 minutes, then at the moment there you have a perfectly even set of circumstances for a third fight. You can build it up. Conor obviously wants to go back to his old persona. We've seen the tweets the other day about no more Mr. Nice Guy. Don't know how he plays that, how he actually gets that into it. Have to come at the back of this now. But if there's anybody that can influence people to buy a fight, record numbers, it's Conor, and I think that's the right fight to make at the moment. I agree that Oliveira probably is the one that deserves the title shot. But how many fighters over the years deserved title shots and never became champions? Because of the fact that it was the people who are the superstars that get people in. And if he's a champion elect like we think he might be, then he should be able to beat number 2, the number 3, the number 4 to get still in that position to fight against Conor and Dustin and the winner of that fight. So yeah, I think it's really interesting. But yeah, Conor and Poirier for the title potentially, or I think that's really the way it should go.
Yeah, like let's say if we get the situation where Conor and Dustin don't run it back and they don't have the trilogy, I think we go Dustin Poirier Oliveira. I think that'd be the fight to make. If Conor if trilogy doesn't come back, I'd go Poirier and Oliveira. I think that'd be a great fight for the lightweight title. Then you have the other wild card there, Michael Chandler as well, who had a fantastic performance against Dan Hooker. I thought that promo after the fight was very Ric Flair like. I thought it was unbelievable, especially being a WWE fan before I started watching the UFC. I thought that was fucking class. Then to see Ric Flair, to see Michael Chandler do a Ric Flair, that was just absolutely deadly. Liam, I was going to come to you with regards to the obviously trilogy fight in terms of adjustments that Conor would need to make. Obviously, you've seen Dustin Poirier has shown that he's very well rounded, and the calf kicks is something we haven't seen too much of Dustin in his last few fights. For yourself, is this a case where he maybe have to go back to more of a lighter stance and maybe abandon kind of boxing based style that he had going into the second fight?
Yeah, he just need. I mean, that's pretty much it. I think as Paul was saying earlier, he was checking the kicks, just wasn't checking them as effectively as he would have liked. And I think he admitted as well that he was really using Dustin Poirier as a warm up to Manny Pacquiao, and that was a mistake. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think competing dual sports at this level is just not a runner. But I mean, I wouldn't say no to like a multi-million-dollar paycheck either. I can see where he's coming from with that. But yeah, I mean, I do you know what? I think if McGregor and Poirier fought 10 times, I think McGregor wins 9.5 times. So I think they just have to fight again. I think I would be confident for Conor to win the trilogy fight, but look how right I was the last time.
Yeah, and just don't make any 30-second predictions.
Oh, it's going to be 29 seconds.
You know what? I've been caught on this football podcast for making predictions, Liam. So don't worry. I get stung weekly as well. So it's
Paul has a great record there. You should ask Paul about his record there on predictions.
Yeah, Paul, there's coming to that as well. With regard to the rematch, how do you feel that the trilogy would go down if they are to fight again?
It's actually, obviously it's a much different fight than the second one. I mean, so if you're lucky, you got to factor in that second one and how good he is. I think Poirier is a different animal at lightweight. Like Conor McGregor, regardless of being active or who he's fought and the last to Khabib, he's still one of the top guys at 155 anywhere. To go in and get that victory in that fashion against McGregor, that puts Poirier right up there. I think it's a very close rematch. Actually, very similar to when he rematched Niaz with a decision. I could see this going to a decision and being a war if they did do the trilogy.
Yeah, like you've seen, when you look at the Nate Diaz rematch, for example, he made a lot of adjustments in that fight. Brought in a lot of new people into the camp. You introduced Dylan Dennis for the jiu-jitsu side, which you've seen like in the clinch exchanges in the Diaz 2 fight, how Conor was so efficient in the clinch. He done very well there, and again, like he brought in Conor Wallace, southpaw boxer, into his camp then, who again, for like Conor said himself, like before the first Diaz fight, he didn't prepare for a long rangey southpaw. Then he brings in one of the best young Irish prospects on the boxing scene in Conor Wallace, and he prepared well. So I don't doubt Conor and John and Owen and Joe, people in the camp for this third fight, that the adjustments will be made, and he'll come in as sharp, as refined as he always is, and like with someone with such a high fight IQ like Conor, you'd expect in a third fight that he'd just come in sharp and he'll put him away. But again, in combat sports, you just don't know. Like in MMA, boxing, Muay Thai, all it takes is one shot, and we seen that with Dustin when he landed that right hand like that. When he put him down, we weren't expecting it. So like anything can happen. Jamie, for yourself in a trilogy, who are you backing?
Look, it's really funny actually that we're talking about it. It just kind of made me think about it. Like really, like it just shows how fickle people are though. Like when it comes to like competition, like he was inactive with a year. Before that, it was a year and 2 months, and he's fighting the number one guy in his division, and everyone is saying basically he's finished. Like if he was to win that fight as well, that's an absolute phenomenal achievement to go into a ring that inactive. Like it's just absolutely crazy. So I think he has definitely the chance of winning. I would say he'd be favourite going into the third fight. To be honest, I think he can make the adjustments. I think that Dustin might settle on the game plan that he has to beat him and won't implement something new because what has worked for him now, whilst Conor has the advantage to be able to try and put a game plan around to adjust to what he has to do to finish Dustin. So I think Conor would be favourite going into that fight still. I would think he could win that fight. But if that fight doesn't go ahead, I don't see him fighting anybody at 155. I see him then going fighting Diaz. That's at 170, and that's what's probably going to happen.
Yeah, look, either way, either trilogy, when you look, either trilogy, you look at it, either McGregor Poirier, McGregor Diaz, for the UFC, like there's serious pay-per-view potential there, and like especially again in the pandemic, either fight is profitable for the company. So like I wouldn't mind seeing either trilogy, but for me, I prefer them to see Dustin fight Dustin, because then again he's back in 155-pound title contention, and he could be champion if he beats Dustin in the next fight, depending on what Khabib does with the 155 belt. And so look, in that regard, it's interesting to see kind of how that all pans out in the next couple of months, and we'll kind of see in the next couple of months what happens with Khabib and what happens, with regards to the lightweight title. Jamie, I understand you wanted to talk about kind of Max Holloway with his recent remarks made that fight week.
Yeah, it's quite interesting actually, because Max Holloway obviously won his last fight against Calvin Kattar, and there was a bit of controversy the week before, obviously, with before Conor fighting Poirier, that Holloway labelled himself as the best boxer in the UFC. And would you guys actually agree with that statement? And if not, who would you put in your top 5 for best boxers in the UFC currently?
Okay, well, I reckon Cain Velasquez is.
One.
Go on, Paul. Yeah.
Go on.
No, go on.
Right up there. Max is right up there. We have 3 or 4 guys that could easily claim the same. You have Jorge Masvidal has excellent boxing. You have McGregor, who has excellent thing. And you could argue between the 3 of them, they've all fought each other. Dustin Poirier at the moment is the man that. I'd lean with Poirier in the most intelligent boxing in the UFC.
Who did you say there, Paul? I missed. Poirier as the best boxer. You're breaking my heart, boy. Here, I think, right? I think.
Listen, you can't be the best boxer if you're boxed by someone.
Yeah.
He outboxed Conor. He has to be at the moment.
Okay, well, I'm going to throw in one from left field. I kind of dropped the ball in there a second ago, but Cain Velasquez, for me, is one of the most underrated heavyweights that was ever in the UFC. And I think his boxing is very, very much underrated. Peter Yan as a phenomenal boxer as well. And I'm going to throw, despite his loss this week or last weekend, Frankie Edgar as one of the top boxers as well. And the reason I want to put Frankie Edgar in there is because he's for his entire career, he's been the shorter guy, and yet he's outboxed taller opponents. And I think like that's a skill that you like as a boxer. You have to be able to move your head to be able to overcome a reach advantage, and that's a phenomenal skill. So I would put those three guys. Are they ahead of Max Holloway? I'm gonna say, yeah, I'm gonna go with Cain Velasquez. I just think that poor fucker got no break at all.
Jamie, who do you think?
After you said it, Keane, before we went live there, Stipe too has phenomenal boxing too. Like, especially if you look back at that fight against Francis, the first one, it's very, very hard to fight against someone like Ngannou, the way he throws so heavy, like, and Stipe's head movement was absolutely phenomenal in the first round, kept him at bay, and was still getting the jab going. So I think Stipe definitely is up there, different from the names that have been given out so far. But you probably would say that at the moment the top 3 or 4 would be Conor. Still is there. He has to be because of his catalogue. Masvidal, I think, is definitely up there as well. Like what Liam said as well, he's in there with bigger guys, especially when he's at welterweight, and especially Till. And his boxing really got him through that fight. It was absolutely unbelievable. So I think Masvidal is definitely up there as well. So to name one, I'm going to sit in the fence now and not put all the cards out there on the table. Bit of a shit arse answer.
Do you know what? For me, I was saying to you off camera, I hardly believe it's Masvidal. I absolutely love him. Do you know, he's just an absolute warrior. And that fight against Darren Till, do you know, he boxed so well in that fight, and even in the Diaz fight as well. Like, do you know, he absolutely busted Diaz up. Do you know what I mean? But then again, like, Diaz takes one slap and he busts up anyway. Like, do you know what I mean? But like, do you know, that was a fantastic performance as well. And do you know, I think Jorge Masvidal, we may see a fight between him and Colby Covington. And you know, maybe in the next couple of months. I know I'm gonna ask Jamie about that, because me and him have been debating with months about this fight, who's gonna win this fight. But for me, Jorge Masvidal would be. I'm gonna throw my cards out the table and I'm gonna call him the best boxer in the UFC. Even though, look, I'm probably gonna get absolutely slaughtered in the comments for that now. But you know, I'm gonna go out on the limb.
You're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't. We've learned that from our comment section, man. We get some amount of flack from our commenters. But we love them.
Yeah. And we've another comment in here from Evan Fahy, who watches our football show. We've a comment in here that's from Evan Fahy, watches our football show, and for fuck's sake, he says, "Where is Billy Gilmore fit into the series potential? Such a young player." Evan, fuck off, please. Like, seriously, does this on every fucking show, whether it's the United show or whether it's the MMA show or whatever. Seriously, Evan, he's fucking useless. Let's get over it. Like, but anyway. In terms of that, it's kind of funny. We were talking about like boxers in UFC. I was talking to Jamie about this there yesterday, like with regards to like the UFC and kind of different styles of fighters and how it's so broad, like the sport of mixed martial arts. My father is a diehard boxing fan, right? And he wouldn't in the last 12 months, he's already developed a love for mixed martial arts. And last Christmas, we were sitting down, we were having a couple of beers, had this YouTube up the smart telly, and I was saying to him how MMA is better than boxing, it's more exciting to watch, and we were debating, and I said, look, give me the remote and I'll show you a few fighters, and I'm telling you now, you develop a love for the sport. So the first fighter I actually showed him was Masvidal, and I was telling him how he has kind of a boxing based style, and that he's just a genuine exciting fighter to watch. And I showed him then videos of Israel Adesanya, again, who's a different style of fighter at range, so very a precision striker, and is very good. Then I showed him videos of other fighters like John Jones and that. And then I posed a question to him after showing them videos of Adesanya and Jones, like, who's going to win the fight? If they could be fighting each other next year or two, who's going to win? Without any knowledge of the MMA and UFC, he says that Adesanya fella wins. And I was like, I hope that happens, but I was like, it's very sketchy with John Jones's ground game. Like, do you know what I mean? It's very, very, very sketchy. But Then I went down to the sitting room the next morning, and what's he watching then? The Jorge Masvidal documentary talking about the backyard fighting and all that stuff. And I was like, I have him hooked. I got him in there. I was absolutely delighted. You know what I mean? It was fantastic to see. But like when you look at combat sports, it's just great to see, like especially MMA, there's so many different styles, and we're talking about how fighters can adjust and stuff like that. And it's such a great sport. And again, it's great to have you guys on, because you're so knowledgeable, about the sport. So look, if we're talking about best boxers, we could sit here all night and say who's the best jiu-jitsu person, who's the best wrestler. Do you know what I mean? We could be there for the night, like, and we'd all have different answers. And I think that's what the beauty of these podcasts and these debates are. But like, just looking into like the next topic tonight is obviously this is a big event this week. UFC 258, two teammates, Kamaru Usman and Gilbert Burns coming up against each other. Two fighters who, in my opinion, the last 12 months have been so dominant in their division, in the welterweight division. Joe Gilbert Burns had a massively dominant win over Tyron Woodley. And then you've seen Kamaru Usman had a thriller fight against Colby Covington that went 5 rounds. He stopped Colby in the fifth and final round. And we've just talked about Masvidal a minute ago. He absolutely steamrolled through Masvidal, even though, albeit Masvidal took the fight in short notice. And be interesting to see what that fight turned out like if Masvidal had a full camp. But all in all, I think last 12 months, this is the two best welterweights in the division. So I want to get all your takes kind of on this fight itself, because a lot of people are very 50-50 on this. So Paul, I'm going to come to you first. In terms of his fight, obviously Kamaru Usman is after moving to Trevor Whitman. He's in Trevor Whitman's gym at the moment. Many people gave Trevor Whitman coach of the year last year. For you, does that play any significant factor in this fight? The fact that Trevor Whitman now is in his corner.
It's definitely a factor. You look at Usman and Whitman was in his corner. Massive fight. My apologies. Usman was a killer from the get-go. And look, I think Usman isn't the most exciting fight in the world, because it doesn't be necessary to win a fight sometimes. But I think Usman in the corner, he's that bit more intelligent. And he's crazy anyway. His corner, giving him coaching between rounds just makes him perfect again. It certainly plays a factor.
Yeah, and Liam, for you, like this situation, we don't often see this in big title fights, that we have two training partners, two teammates fighting each other. Now, I know he's had to move in gyms just recently in the last kind of like 9 months since kind of the pandemic happened. But like with this fight, do you think maybe Gilbert Burns may have an edge here, because he's been in the gym with Kamaru Usman and he knows his game inside and out. They've sparred countless rounds, and with a fighter like Gilbert Burns, he's so refined. He's good everywhere on the feet, on the ground. Kamaru Usman in the last couple of months, do you think maybe this is his biggest threat?
No, I don't think so. I think that Gilbert Burns has. Okay, so they're both excellent grapplers. Obviously, Usman, the wrestler, and Burns with his jiu-jitsu. If it was a jiu-jitsu match, then we'd have a risk of Burns getting submission. But he's going to have to get Usman down first. He's like, to where his best chance of winning the fight is, Gilbert's going to have to overcome the best wrestler at welterweight right now, and I don't see that happening. With regards to striking, they're both grapplers first who have transitioned to striking later on in their careers. So I would put them pretty even there. The Trevor Whitman addition will, I think, may give Usman the edge on striking in this particular fight. Plus, I believe Usman is a bit taller as well, so he's going to have the reach advantage. But is it the fact that they know each, like that goes two ways? They both know each other. They both have rounds with each other, you know. And I know Gilbert Burns has said that he knows that Usman knows that Gilbert can submit Usman. But that's grand if it's a jiu-jitsu match. But he's not going to get him to the ground. He's not going to get Usman down that easy, unless he knocks him down. But yeah. So I don't know. I think it's it's going to happen a lot more as well with these super gyms. You know, you've got teammate versus teammate going to happen more and more as the gyms get bigger. And we find it here on the local circuit all the time as well. That like I've got two lads.
Yeah. I was just about to ask you a question, like SBG being such a big gym, like have you come across this, like you've multiple disciplines in terms of like you have MMA, you've Muay Thai fighters, you've fighters doing wrestling, jiu-jitsu. Have you ever come across that where you've had like fighters in the gym who've made cross paths like?
Yeah, I will. It's bound to happen. As like we've got twin brothers who are fighting in the same weight class. Eventually they're going to fight each other. Like they want to get to the IMAFs and they both want to be a gold medalist. They're going to end up fighting each other at some point. You know, they knock lumps off each other inside in the gym every day. And I've also got two bantamweights who are kind of like fairly experienced that hope to someday fight for a bantamweight title, maybe on a Cage Legacy or something like that. And they're prepared to fight each other as well. It's just part. It's part of the game, you know. But I mean, at the end of the day, even when they spar in the gym, you can't pick a winner. You know, like on a Monday night, one will win. On a Tuesday night, the other guy might come back around. You know, and it's whoever wins on the night. Obviously, is going to be the champ or whatever. You know, but yeah, it's a tough thing. But the thing about fighting and like this is kind of like a martial arts spirit thing as well is that it's not like you don't have to be friends with somebody to have a good fight with them, or you can be friends with somebody and have a good fight with them, because if you frame it a little bit differently, and that Gilbert Burns wants to be a champion and he wants to beat the very, very best person that's out there to become a champion, and for the same for Usman. But let's just concentrate on one side for the moment. So as his friend, Usman would prefer to give him a fight of a life, and if he wins, be happy that he has beaten the best version of Usman. And that goes both ways as well. So the two guys are going to, like, the fact that they're friends will only make them fight harder, and will want to make them, it will make them give each other the best version of themselves so that they can, you know, claim to have beaten the best of each other. So yeah, it's every coach's nightmare, but it's going to happen time and time again. It's going to happen more often in the future, and we're going to see two SBG guys fighting on the professional circuit at some point in the future as well. So, you know, it's just part of the game.
Yeah, I remember I was up at like I've seen two SBG fellas fight before in Muay Thai. I was up in Dublin, it was up in one of the GA clubs, wherever it was. Don't know the exact venue it was, because my friend Eric was fighting on the card, and there was from SBG, like it was like Nace and like another SBG somewhere else in Dublin, don't know what area, but two SBG lads. I was thinking, like,
that's
Jesus,
pretty common.
like, yeah, like and seeing that, like I was thinking, like obviously two separate gyms, probably not the same thing as two fighters from like the same gym, but like again, you probably like with our MMA growing in Ireland on a massive scale. Again, you're absolutely right, Liam. We're definitely going to see a lot more of that. And look, again, that's only good for the development of fighters in this country. I think that goes without saying, because it develops a competitive edge within the gym. And those lads know, like, you know, not only are their rivals outside the gym, but inside the gym as well, they're going to have to train hard. They're going to have to, you know, they're going to have to show that full commitment. And look, it benefits everyone, fighters, coaches, and everybody within the Irish scene.
But you've got it in Bellator right now, and Paul would back me up on this one. He'd be more knowledgeable on the Bellator side. But you've got, like, within SBG, in just John Kavanagh's gym alone, you've got three bantamweights in Bellator who are all within a title shot within the next couple of years. Do you know, you've got Brian Moore, James Gallagher. Is Blaine O'Driscoll still fighting that bantam? Paul, do you remember?
Blaine is fighting with a friend of competing as well at bantamweight.
Who's that? Sorry.
Friends Malambo.
Oh, Friends, yeah. So there you go. So any of those guys could find themselves, you know, one is the champion and one wants to become the champion. There's only one person to fight. It's going to happen. If it's not this division, it'll be another division. You know, John's got over like 60 pro fighters up in Dublin at the moment, and it's not just one, like not just this gym. Like Team Rhino have a large team as well, and at some point they might find themselves in a very similar position, and you know, many other gyms around the world.
Yeah, and look, again, I suppose for some gyms then they might find a conflict of interest as well. Sometimes that might happen. You know, like it's very possible. But again, we've seen it with Team Alpha Male down the years. Remember when TJ left the gym. It was very well documented there. Obviously Uriah was after, like, it was not long after Uriah fought Dominic Cruz as well. So like, and then TJ went on and won it, and then obviously split then with Dwayne Ludwig. I remember Conor McGregor called him a snake in the grass on the Ultimate Fighter. That was entertaining viewing. We've comment in here just with regards to the fighters. It's Blaine is 125, Franz is 135, so is Brad Katona, I think.
Good shout there, Quilta, yeah.
So yeah,
I think has Brad signed for Bellator? I don't think he has, is he?
Brad is signed for Bellator, but I think he's competing at 145.
Oh, really? Okay, well there you go. He could easily drop down to. Well, he fought at Bantam already, so I mean he's yeah, good shout there, Quilta.
Absolutely. Jamie, I understand. You want to talk about Israel? We're talking about moving up from weight class to weight class. I understand you want to talk about Israel Adesanya moving up to light heavyweight.
Yeah, look, it's obviously a very interesting fight that's coming up between Israel and Jan. What's your thoughts on this, guys? I think that the weight itself will be a massive difference for Israel. We know he fought there before, I believe, in K1 when he was kickboxing. He fought light heavyweight. But do you think it's a massive jump, go from 185 to 205? When we talk about double champs over the last couple of years, we've seen it bantamweight to flyweight, we've seen it to featherweight to lightweight, but it's obviously a massive 20 pounds there, which is nearly a stone and a half. In terms of, will the skill level of Israel be enough for Jan to beat Jan, or do we see it being a lot more challenging fight than what people are actually expecting it to be? I'm seeing a lot of people saying that Israel is going to steamroll him, but what's your thoughts on that bout?
Do you want to go first, Paul?
Yeah, I just think Izzy has too much for him. He's too skillful, too elusive, too powerful. Jan Blachowicz has power. Is he going to be able to hit Izzy? Izzy isn't putting on extra muscle for this fight. He's not trying to bulk up like John did. He's not trying to be a bigger man in this fight. He's doing his best. That's just outskill his opponent, and when the opportunity comes, he'll finish him.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think Izzy's footwork is just going to be too much for Jan Blachowicz. And at the time when was it Dominic Reyes that Jan Blachowicz fought last?
Yeah.
It was.
I think it was. Yeah. And you would say like Dominic Reyes is faster than Jan Blachowicz, but the difference there was that I felt that Jan Blachowicz was going to be able to get his hands on him enough to rough him up in the clinch, and then kind of drag the fight into his range there at that stage. But Izzy is a step higher again in terms of experience in footwork, in ring craft, in positioning, in kind of just rolling with punches. Izzy's just too good, and it won't, like, he could fight at heavyweight and still carry that kind of elusiveness with him. Although I think that would be a stretch too far. I don't fancy him against John Jones. If it's a heavyweight John Jones, but against the Jan Blachowicz, I see Izzy taking this all day long.
It's
and you know how right I am with
Jan too. I think that. Yeah. I think too with Jan. Yeah. I don't think Jan is a champion. I don't think he's the best light heavyweight.
Correct.
I don't think he is. I think obviously Israel is probably light years ahead of the other middleweights. So the actual transition seems to be much easier. But it's a funny thought that 20 pounds is quite a lot of weight. Like, if you think about it in terms of, imagine if someone like Max Holloway went from 145 to 170. Like, it's the same range of weight, but we don't really kind of think about it that much when it goes from middleweight to light heavyweight. But yeah, I think skill wise, Izzy obviously is elite. I don't think Jan really has the skill set to worry Izzy that much. I think he'll go up. There's probably more dangerous fights at light heavyweight for Izzy than maybe Thiago Santos could be dangerous for him, just because of the overall power. Like,
or Jerry Prochaska. That dude is a problem for everyone. That dude throws back fists. Who the hell throws back fists in 2021? That dude throws back fists.
Yeah, oh, stop. Or even like Dominic Reyes, I think at 205, I think that'd be an interesting fight for Izzy as well. I know he got knocked out by Jan, but stylistically, I think it'd be a good fight to watch, especially when you look at Dominic Reyes' performance against John Jones. Like, do I arguably think Dominic Reyes won that 3-2 in the rounds. I thought though it was very susceptible to judge him on that night, but. Do you know, like I think that'd be a good fight to watch for Izzy if he is successful beating Jan, which I think he will be. I think Izzy will stop him probably in the second round. For me, I think he'd be too precise. Again, as you said, like his footwork is second to none. And so I rewatched the Paulo Costa fight the other day, and he tied with him. Costa couldn't do anything. He had him froze, and everyone was saying to me. And I remember one of my good friends, he's a massive MMA fan, messaged me that week because we done a podcast a couple of weeks before that. And I was saying, Izzy's movement is classy. He'll stop him. He was like, no, Paulo hit him, like Kelvin Gastelum hit him. But I was like, look, Izzy's improved since then. Like, he's that good. He's too precise. And you seen it. He tied with Paulo Costa. And then again, like Paulo Costa came out that week and he was slagging him off in the press conference, saying he's talking about grappling, this, that, and the other. And Izzy just outclassed him. And I think when you look at that 185 division. Who really can beat Izzy? Like he's beaten Whittaker, who's a absolute great fighter. You've seen his performance against Hill. He's a good fighter. Cannonier. Would he beat Izzy? I don't think so. I think Darren Till stylistically would be a great fight to watch because we know that fight isn't going to the ground. That's staying on the feet. We'll see who knocks each other out first. I think that'd be a great fight too to watch. But again, Izzy, I think beats all them 185ers. I think for him to have more competition, he has to go up to 205, which he is now, and I think he'll win the 205 belt. And then I'm just going to paint a picture here for everyone here. Just I'm picturing this now, right? We're at the end of 2021. John Jones, let's say, wins the heavyweight title this year. Let's say that happens. Izzy's double champ by the end of the year. And then we go have an absolute big super fight. December 2021 is double champ Izzy against heavyweight champion John Jones at 205. That would be insane for all the marbles. That would just be absolutely fantastic. Even though John Jones is saying he has no interest in coming down to 205, but even money, that'd be a massive money fight. And look, stylistically, against for watching the striking between them two, I think would just be absolutely beautiful. Considering John Jones on the feet, just so versatile, so class. His arsenal is unbelievable, and he's so naturally talented as well. And then you have Izzy, then his striking, as we've talked about, like his distance management, his precision, and his kicks are just second to none as well. So like when you look at that fight, it'd be a great to watch. But then again, with John Jones just take him down and just sniff the jockstrap for 5 rounds, I think that's what you'd probably see. I think I just took a line from Conor there in terms of that, but I think that's possibly what you'd probably see if them two fought. But I painted a picture there for you, Dana. I know you probably don't watch this, but there's where the money's at in December 2021.
Well,
right there.
Paul has a tip there for who's going to dethrone Izzy at middleweight. He's got a horn for a particular fighter. Who's gonna dethrone Izzy?
I think he'll dethrone Izzy, but I think Izzy stays at 205. That division opens up because Izzy's chasing the Jones, and I think Hamza becomes a double champ at the end of 2021 or halfway through 2022.
Jesus.
Hamza Chimaev, double champ. Wow.
I told you he has a horn for him.
You have to clip this now, Keane.
Oh, don't worry, Tim, my man does all the clips of the podcast. Tim's probably watching right now.
You're going to be clipped up straight away now.
Do you know what though? The only thing about this, if Paul's right, I'll definitely throw it up. If he's wrong, I'll definitely throw it up. Either way, it's going up. So we'll say May.
I don't think Hamza will be double champ this year, but he'll certainly be welterweight champ by this year. As soon as he gets a run at the middleweight division, I think there is he stopping him.
This is what I'll do, right? If this happens, we'll give this a deadline, May 2022. If he's double champ by then, that'll be clipped up on the YouTube channel, on Twitter, the lot, and it'd be just captioned Mystic OD strikes again. There you go. There, I'm printing money there, right there now. Absolutely. But Joe, it's not a bad show. I think we'll see what happens when he fights Leon Edwards. When Hamza fights him, we'll see what he's really made of, I think, at that stage. Because look, Leon Edwards is a great fighter. He's been inactive as well, so that may play a factor too. But this will be the first big test in the UFC for Hamza, Leon Edwards. So look, we'll see where he's at then, and we'll see, you know, if he's going to be a top contender in both divisions. In that regard. But this could coming into like the next talking point show tonight. You know, obviously we've talked about Israel Adesanya moving up, which I think, look, that's exciting. That's only 3 weeks away. Another big event coming up. So like we're in terms of a pandemic, we're not stuck for action. But we were talking about the welterweight and the middleweight division actually on that last talking point, and two fighters. Again, we talked about former teammates. It seems to be a hot topic tonight. Jorge Masvidal, Colby Covington, both not booked at the minute. And again, in terms of the welterweight division, we're going to have to get new top contenders. In terms of this, I'm going to come to you first, Jamie. Is Jorge Masvidal and Colby Covington the next big fight to make in the welterweight division?
Absolutely, definitely. I think it's probably the Conor Khabib obviously is still number one. I think Conor Dustin is still number two. And I think Jorge and Colby is the third biggest fight you can currently make in the UFC, I think. I know obviously Jones and Israel there's also narrative to put that in there as well. But I think currently, right now in the next 6 months, it's the biggest fight you can basically have. I love both guys too. Like I actually love both fighters. I think Colby is just absolutely hilarious. His characters are so off the wall, and I love the fact that he comes out to Kurt Angle's theme song too, which is another hero of mine. So it's obviously a plus. And then Masvidal also is just a fucking really cool cat, like, isn't he? Like, he's just really, really cool. A really good fighter. Doesn't take any bullshit from anybody. Probably is the second best on the mic in terms of the UFC behind Conor. Just unbelievable potential there for him to be a superstar, and already is a superstar. So the narrative in relation to the actual story behind them being former best friends, former teammates, all this stuff, it is like something from EastEnders or something, or Coronation Street. It's fucking mental stuff, like. But it sells tickets though, and it sells pay-per-views, and we haven't even spoken about the fighting yet. So I've spent the last minute and a half talking about all these different things in the background, and we haven't even talked about both fighters in terms of their styles and how it matches up and all that kind of stuff. So it's absolutely box office. The only place that I feel have fallen down a little bit is I don't know if, in terms of pay-per-view boys, is will the casual fan be able to jump on top of it and know enough about what's actually happening? So I think it's up to the UFC to build that now at the moment. How are they going to build that? That's the big question. And if they can build that
Jamie,
to a point,
to build it. You told me this off camera. I want you to share this with the viewers. I want you to share this.
Oh yeah. So my thing would be is that obviously when they're watching UFC, the most viewers you're going to get in terms of casual viewers is going to be a Conor fight. What I would do is I would release basically before the Conor fight that night, have a proper 5-minute kind of dialogue and promo regarding the actual build up to the fight. What had happened in the history there, all that kind of stuff, and have the two fighters come to the cage even before the fight begins. I'd have that as one, maybe first or second fight that will be fans back. I think that fight needs fans. I think fans would absolutely love that. And that's the way I would build up that fight. I don't think at the moment, to us who love UFC, love MMA, know everything about it, but how do you get other people involved in it? I think that's the part we really need to get to. Like even with the Masvidal Usman fight, it was all Masvidal, that fight. Like that was all Masvidal in terms of the build up, in terms of the actual promotion of the fight. He was the one that was the main player in terms of bringing in the big numbers. You have Colby on the other hand too, which is also loudmouth, has a big fan base, but you need to get the casuals in between as well to really hop on board. And I think you can get between 1.3 and 1.5, maybe 1.6 million pay-per-view buys on that fight, I think, if you build it up the correct way. which would be massive, which would be in the Conor ballpark almost. But yeah, the actual fight itself, I think Colby wins it handy, to be honest. I think Colby destroys him over the 5 rounds.
Liam, for yourself, Colby Covington, Jorge Masvidal, American top team, former teammates. How do you think that go down in terms of the build-up, the shit talk, the overall fight stylistically? How do you feel about that fight?
Well, the only thing I can be certain of is the corner team for both sides. You're obviously going to have Donald Trump Sr. in Colby Covington's corner, and then you're going to have Donald Trump Jr. in Jorge Masvidal's corner. And I'd pay, I reckon 1.6 million would be undercut if those two boys show up in the cage as well. To be honest, I know I get the story, I get the backlog. I don't think they're that big I don't think they're big enough to pull this off as characters. And I think Michael Chiesa has already called out Colby Covington. I think there's a need to kind of churn up the welterweight division and bring the next, like we say, ranked 5 to 15 back up to the title picture to create some new contenders. Obviously Hamzat is fighting Leon Edwards, and that brings him into the top 5 as well if he wins there, you know. So I'd prefer to see Masvidal and Covington fight some lower ranked guys and give them a shot to come up. And if they both come through, then let's get it together. But I just don't think the timing is quite right now. But then I'm totally anti-Trump anyway, so those two boys piss me off something fierce.
For me, I just want to see this fight because the shit talk between the two of them, well, especially Colby will just be wanting to wind Masvidal up to the last. And think about Masvidal is he could take maybe the approach that he took in the Ben Askren fight where he didn't open his mouth. Then that first opening minute, bang, flying knee. Do you know what I mean? That was just something crazy. And he said he baptized Ben Askren, you know, which look, I think Ben Askren got brain damage because now he's fighting Jake Paul now. But look, we won't get into that because we're not going to air Jake Paul airtime. But like when you actually when you look at that Masvidal like Covington fight, I think for obviously the casual fan, as Jamie said, it probably doesn't entice the casual fan. But when you look at the MMA fan base, you'll obviously there's a lot there. Obviously, their old American top team teammates. You know, obviously Colby Covington has been talking shit the last kind of 12 months with regards to talking shit about Poirier. He's talking shit about Masvidal. He's talking shit about someone else. I can't forget the other person who it was. Paul, you might enlighten me about this. There was someone else who called up in that gym.
He pulled a stunt.
Sorry?
He pulled a stunt about Matt Hughes. It wasn't really very tasty or tasteful.
Yeah.
No.
Someone like that.
Yeah, he said to get off the tracks. He said like Matt Hughes found out when the train's coming, you need to get off the tracks. Of course, Matt Hughes is the one that has severe brain damage, having gotten like T-boned on when his car stalled on a train track. So, like, I don't care who you. I put Francis Ngannou in there with Colby Covington. That kid just needs a beating.
Yeah. Oh, and like see his comments before the Conor Poirier fight. It's like Poirier would be coming out, he'd be crying or whatever he said. He doesn't have a filter, does he? He doesn't have a filter, and he just says anything. You know, he's a supporter of Donald J. Trump anyway. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
And Paul, for you briefly, how would you feel about that fight yourself? Did you maybe think, as Jamie said, Covington goes through Masvidal? Do you maybe think Masvidal knocks him out? What would you make of that potential fight?
So I think that fight is an easy sell. I think look at the next 11 weeks. There is at least 10 tickets on the line, but 9 of the divisions are tied up. Amanda Nunes being a double champ, and they're being champion for the 205 belt. That leaves 3 titles, 3 for the whole summer that got put on. The BMF title will be on the line.
Yeah, like look, I think that fight it is an easy sell. It is an easy sell. It just depends what way. Like in terms of like how the UFC promote it, if they do it the right way, because we've seen in the past in the welterweight division with certain fighters that the UFC haven't promoted. I remember when Woodley was champ, he was unhappy about the way he was promoted. In terms of that, maybe that was a personal vendetta that Dana White had kind of at that time. We all kind of know
that's just
the Woodley
being a moanhole.
Yeah. I was just about to say, Liam, that the Woodley conspiracy files were coming out. It's like watching an episode of CSI Miami or something. Do you know, it's kind of something like that. But it's just like, I think, like, look, it'd be a good fight. And for me, I'm a big fan of watching trash talk when there's a feud there, when there's a proper feud there, and they get into it. I like watching that part of the sport sometimes, because I like a bit of mental warfare. Do you know what I mean? In all aspects of sports, I like a bit of mental warfare, not just in MMA. In football too, I like watching certain managers get into mental warfare. Roy Keane was a fucker for it when he was playing football on the pitch himself. Another Cork man. That must be a Cork thing, you know, with mental warfare. Down a Cork. But Joe, in all sports, I just like seeing people get a mental edge. It's just something I like. But look, in terms of the topics for tonight, we've went through a lot of like kind of current things in terms of fights coming up, potential fights. One thing I'd like to talk about, obviously, we're in 2021 now, and there's a lot of big fights coming. There's all fantastic fights coming up. There's all divisions are stacked at the minute. So I threw a topic at all three of the lads here in terms of the current UFC champions and who they see being at top of their division at the end of this year. So I'm going to go to each member of the panel. We're going to go from the women's strawweight division all the way up to the men's heavyweight division in terms of who is going to be the champion by the end of this year. So Jamie, I'm going to come to you first. Give me your champions in each division.
Okay, women's, I don't think will change at all. I think it will still be the same at the end of the year. I don't see any change there whatsoever. Flyweight, I probably see Figueroa probably still champion by the end of the year. Moreno might win that rematch. It's hard to know really, but I think Figueroa probably will be still champion. I think Jan will still be champion of bantamweight. I think Max Holloway will be champion of featherweight. I can see him beating Volkanovski or beating the winner of that fight. Between him and who's he fighting again?
Ortega.
I think he beats both of them. I think he makes enough adjustments for Volkanovski, but that's still a tough fight. But I think he makes enough adjustments to be more clear favorite or forward ahead in that next fight. They're not leaving in the judges' hands. Lightweight, this is the tough one, I think, out of all of them. I'm gonna go Michael Chandler for lightweight because of the way things are going to play out. I don't know if Conor and Poirier is going to happen. That's my reasoning for it. I don't think Conor and Poirier is going to happen. I think potentially it'll be Poirier and Oliveira. I think Poirier might win that fight, but I think Chandler will beat Poirier potentially. Then welterweight, I think Usman will still be champion. I think that wrestling style is just really dominant, and I don't really kind of see anyone at the moment coming up through that ranks. As the two boys said, I think welterweight is a massive way to go in terms of building up somebody who can actually challenge. I think Whittaker will be back champion of middleweight, but the reason being is because Israel will not be anywhere near it. Israel will be light heavyweight, and John Jones, I think, will be heavyweight champion by the end of this year.
So you're going my pay-per-view?
Yeah, basically.
It's great to see you're pointing into my sales pitch there. That's absolutely fantastic. I'm going to go to Liam. Liam, who's going to be your champions for at the end of 2021?
Yeah, so I think I agree that I don't think the women's divisions are going to change hands this year. I think next year we're going to have a new flyweight champion because there's so many young flyweight contenders coming of age. But as of this year, I think Nunes will still hold both bantamweight, featherweight, and Shevchenko will be the flyweight queen. And I don't see anybody taking out Weili Zhang either. I agree. I think Figueiredo stays king of the flyweights in the men's. I was talking to Paul earlier. I said unless Cejudo comes back, but I don't see that happening. And Paul has a great theory on Cejudo's next move as well. But I think Figueiredo stays flyweight champ. I see in the bantamweight, I see Aljamain Sterling taking out Peter Yan, and then subsequently Sandhagen taking out Aljamain Sterling. So I'm going with Sandhagen for bantamweight champ by the end of the year. I think Holloway, something similar in the featherweight. I think Holloway is back on top after Ortega beats Volkanovski, and then Holloway beats Ortega again. Of course, McGregor is going to be the lightweight champ by the end of 2021. Am I going to say anything different? I'm never wrong about a McGregor fight, like. And then at welterweight, I agree. Usman still going to be. I know Paul will disagree with me on that one, but Usman's going to be king of the heap at welterweight. I still think Izzy stays at middleweight. I think he's only moving up to try this kind of double champ thing, and I think he moves back down and stays at middleweight. I don't see him staying at light heavyweight. I'm gonna go left field and give Alexander Rakic a shot at light heavyweight. I just like that guy's style. I think he's murder for everyone. Either him or Jiri Petraska, but I just have this sneaking suspicion that Rakic is gonna cause some problems this year. And for heavyweight, I'm predicting either Ngannou or Alexander Volkov. I think John Jones is not going to do the business at heavyweight. I think Ngannou takes out Stipe. He will take out John Jones, and the next challenger for him will be Alexander Volkov, and I can't pick a winner between those two.
Volkov is dangerous, isn't he now? He just seems to have found something. I don't know. He's just, yeah, he's a dangerous fighter at the moment, Volkov.
He absolutely murdered over him the other night. Did you know what's bad? I done a double Saturday night. I done Sandhagen and Overeem, and I seen Overeem just get absolutely murdered in the octagon. That was a bad night for me. That was Paddy Power was very happy taking my money there Saturday night. I thought I'd rather seen Sandhagen knock Edgar out with a flying knee, and I was like, Jesus Christ, come on now, Overeem. Do you know what I mean? The rebirth. Here we go. The rebirth of Overeem. He's back. Minus the PEDs. I was thinking, yes, here we go. He's back, but then it's got absolutely more horse meat. Yeah, absolutely a tainted horse meat. Yeah. But I'm gonna go before I go to Paul. I have dubious fighters in here. I know Liam, you're probably gonna shut me down. I said to Jamie before this, I'm gonna make some dubious predictions here, and I want to see how wrong I'm gonna be at the end of this year. But I said, look, I'll go out of left field. So I have one title change in hands this year in the women's divisions. I have Rose Namajunas getting the strawweight title. Other than that, Valentina and Amanda keep their belts, but I'm going to go with Rose and get the strawweight title back. Even though I was tempted to throw Joanna in there because I love her, but at the same time, I tug Rose, as it'd be great to see her get the title back. So that's obviously Rose, and then the rest of the women retain their titles. At flyweight, I did have Henry Cejudo, but I said to you guys before we actually went live, I changed my mind. Because someone said to me before the show, and it kind of made me change my mind that if he's coming back, the money fight isn't there from a flyweight. So if he's coming out of retirement, he's coming out for the money, not the love. So yeah, in that regard, I went to Figueiredo to be flyweight champion by the end of the year. Bantamweight, this is where I'm going to get shot. So it's neither Jan Sandhagen or Sterling as the bantamweight champion. I've went with the snake, TJ Dillashaw, to be bantamweight champion by the end of 2021. I can see the shake on Paul's head there. I'm just going to go with that one as one of the dubious predictions that I have. I'm going to go with TJ Dillashaw being champion by the end of 2021. Especially the man being on EPO, I know no one wants him to win a fight since he done that. So, look, I said, look, I'll go for one scandalous decision out of all my fighters, and that's the one. That's the one. Now, look, if I'm right by the end of this year, it won't be so scandalous, and I'll clip it up and say how right I am. But I'm going to go with that one. I go with the Snake being 135-pound champion at the end of the year. Unanimously, I went to Max Holloway as well. I love Max Holloway. Like outside of the bubble of like McGregor and Izzy, Max Holloway is there as my favorite fighter. Like, take the fighting style and his fighting style and his wins and all that out of the equation. But him as a person, how he comes across in interviews, he seems like just a proper chill, genuine, nice guy. Like, and and then he goes in the octagon, he's just an absolute killer. I think for me, that's just so cool. Like, so for me, like, I'd love to see him get that featherweight title back. And, I like to see the trilogy against Volkanovski, because that second fight, I believe he won. I believe he won that second fight. But again, as you said, sometimes you can't leave it in the hands of the judges. And I think, as Jamie said, I think Holloway may make enough adjustments. He looks so sharp against Calvin Kattar that I think in that third fight against Volkanovski, if it does come to pass, he does beat Volkanovski. Now, at lightweight, I have two here. So even though you meant to have one, I'm going to kind of bend the rules here. So I have Conor McGregor down as well, as lightweight champion by the end of the year, because I have to be biased in that regard. But if in the event that Conor isn't as active, I have someone completely different to Liam and Jamie. I have Mr. Charlie Olives, Charles Oliveira, as lightweight champion by the end of 2021. If Conor McGregor doesn't spark out Poirier, I have Charlie Olives as 155-pound champion. Even though Michael Chandler could do the business as well, and Dustin Poirier could be there. So the division is stacked. But I'm gonna stick with my guns. I'm gonna go Charlie Olives / Conor McGregor, because I'm gonna cheat on that one. But it is what it is. In terms of welterweight, I've went to another dubious one. I've went to Colby Covington, being welterweight champion by the end of the year. Again, look, I think he done very well in his last fight, and that was a close fight between him and Usman the last time they fought. So look, I'm just going to go out left field and say it could be Colby, but again, you can't really look past Kamaru Usman, can you? I think he's a very dominant figure, even though I know Paul, I have a sneaky feeling who I think his welterweight champion is going to be. I have a feeling it's the man he mentioned earlier on. But I'm going to go with Colby just for the crack, just for the laugh, because imagine we have Paul's man against Colby for the welterweight title. Just imagine that build up now. Jesus Christ, that'd be something insane. At middleweight, I'm going to go with Israel Adesanya. He's going to be champ. He's going to be both middleweight and lightweight champion by the end of the light heavyweight champion by the end of the year. And again, as I said at the top of the show, John Jones is going to be heavyweight champion. I do firmly believe that. I think he will do the business at heavyweight. I think he will be the champion. And look, I get my wish in December, and Izzy beats him. I'm just going to throw that out there. Izzy beats him in December 2021. I could be wrong there, but I'm going to throw that out there because fuck it. But Paul, for you, who your champion's going to be by the end of 2021?
So this is a tricky one for me because I predicted all of these at the very start of the year. I'm on this weight on several of them already, but I have to stay true to January. I agree with the two of the women's will change. I believe Dave said I think at bantamweight, Aljo Sterling and I see him holding that belt because with next in line, he's shown us already he can be. At featherweight, I actually have Ortega. I just think he's much improved from the version of Max Holloway. At lightweight, I have McGregor, even though that's looking less and less likely. That's what. Welterweight, of course, it is Hamzat Chimaev. Of course. I see is still holding the belt, but I do believe that the belt could be an interim champion, in which case I will give it to Robert Whittaker. At light heavyweight, it'll be Israel. At heavyweight, I don't think John Jones has a sniff against the top 12. I think Stipe holds on to the belt for the year.
All different predictions, lads. I absolutely love it. And I'm just saying, I'm just painting this picture, another picture of Dana White. if Hamzat's champion, right? Give us Colby Covington versus Hamzat, Russia versus USA. We didn't get it when Ben Askren. We pointed him versus Khabib. Can we get Colby Covington versus Hamzat? Now that'd be something. I think Colby Covington would walk out like with what's the song in the Rocky IV film? There's no easy way out or something. You can see him doing something stupid like that. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. You'd probably have you'd have Trump walk out Colby, and you'd have Vladimir Putin walk out Chimaev. Like, it'd just be fucking deadly. Like,
I'd say Trump will walk out with both of them.
Absolutely. But look, I think all the champions you have there, it's all very possible, and that it can happen. And there's all the interesting choices in there. I think one that was a massive trend there was Izzy being light heavyweight champion. So I think we all firmly, apart from Needham, firmly believe that Izzy's going to be 205 champion. And look, again, for me, I just hope that John Jones thing happens, because I just want Izzy to beat him, because I want John Jones to be shut up by Izzy. Do you know what I mean? I just want that to happen. But again, anything can happen in MMA. We've a comment in here from Stevie Kerwin with regards to 2021. And Stevie says, any predictions for a breakout star for 2021? Paul, I'm going to give that to you. Breakout star for 2021.
I'm actually going to go with a Bellator fight for 2021. I kept my close eye on in 2020, and that's Wilson.
You'll have to say that again. You just broke up there.
JJ Wilson.
JJ Wilson.
Liam, for you, I know you have a fighter over in Bellator heavyweight division.
Yeah, Mr. Ryan the Hulk Spillane, but I like at the moment Bellator haven't announced any European shows, so I'm not sure 2021 will be his year. I think 2022 maybe, but I don't know. That new guy that they have in the Bellator light heavyweight division is champion, the light heavyweight champ of ACA, the Russian guy. He's up against who's he up against? He's up against Corey Anderson in the first round. No, he's the current champ. The Yuga Wooga guy. Oh. That guy starts with a Y and it has about 15 Z's in it. Him. I reckon he should make some moves this year.
Yeah, absolutely. But Liam, I just want one thing here. When Ryan's fighting, get him to call out Jack Swagger, please. Me and Jamie were talking about this in work. We want this to happen. Get Ryan to call out Jack Swagger. If it's not his first fight, the second fight, get on that mic. Give Jack Swagger the walls of Jericho, please. It'd just be absolutely unbelievable. Oh, stop. I think that'd just be absolutely fantastic. When I seen Ryan call him out, the first thing I did was message Jamie, and I was like, Jamie, he's out to call out Jack Swagger. It's gonna fucking happen. Or one the other, like, who's the other so not another like WWE fella in Bellator at the moment, lads. I think was he previously there? Was it Bobby Lashley? Was there yeah, he was there years ago as well. Yeah. Jesus Christ, yeah. Do you know what though? Even that Jake Paul's fighting Ben Askren, lads. I'm telling you now, I'm just gonna bring it up here. I'm gonna say it now on the pod, and it's probably gonna get clipped up. Ben Askren's gonna beat him, lads. It's gonna be fucking hilarious. Ben Askren's gonna beat Jake Paul. He's gonna beat him by decision. I'm gonna throw that out there as the last point in night. Ben Askren's gonna beat Jake Paul.
I hope for the sake of MMA you're right. I hope you're right, because if Jake Paul, like if Ben Askren goes out there and shits the bed on behalf of our entire sport, then we should just go back and just go back to UFC 1 all over again and try again. Try a different evolution of the sport, because.
See, Tyron Woodley's in his corner. He was talking to the Schmo. I was watching it today, and Tyron Woodley's cornering Ben Askren for this fight. So that'd be interesting to see if Askren loses. Does Jake Paul get on the mic and call out Woodley? Because he get fucking murdered. I hope, if he calls out Woodley marks him.
Isn't Jorge Masvidal in the corner of Jake Paul?
Yeah,
he was. Jorge Masvidal was. He was training with him. He had a YouTube video up with him. I seen Jake Paul was like running at the fucking pad, and he was throwing like a flying hook or something.
Diego Sanchez special. Yeah,
Diego Sanchez special. But yeah, look, I think it'd be bad for the sport if Jake Paul miraculously beats Ben Askren. Like I can't stand him, lads. I seriously, like, he's no room to be in combat sports. Never mind boxing. He should be up on YouTube putting up fucking video vlogs or whatever. But look, it is what it is. That's where the money is at the moment in terms of YouTube boxing. But we're just at the end of the show here tonight, lads. So obviously, been a fantastic show. And in terms of UFC 258, it's not live this Saturday. It's going to be a fantastic card. I'm just going to go quick fire around to the whole panel. Jamie, come to you first. Who's winning the fight? Usman or Gilbert Burns?
Usman decision. I can't see
Usman
any
decision.
other. Yeah, and I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm really wrong. I hope Burns wins. I have a dislike for Usman. I really do. I don't know what it is. I just don't like Usman at all. So by me saying that I think he's going to win, hopefully I'll be proven completely wrong. So an Usman decision.
I think we lost Keane,
I
did
think
we?
Keane was
Right, I'm going Usman as well
Keane is
anyway. So
speechless.
speechless. Yeah, I'm going for Usman as well anyway, and I agree decision. What's that?
Usman by late KO to full house.
You're going for a
Fifth
KO.
round or late in the fourth round.
I think I'm gone. Am I? Am I gone there, lad? I think I was
You're
gone
back,
there
you're
for a
back.
minute.
Yeah,
Everyone's
you're back. You were tapped out.
Yeah, I was gone there for like a minute. I don't know what
There
happened
was a
there.
fella
The screen
came in
was just-
and put a rear naked choke in and you just passed out.
So I'm going to go to Paul next. Sorry for that technical difficulty. Paul, who's winning? Usman or Gilbert Burns?
I have Usman winning late fourth round, fifth round TKO.
Usman fourth round to fifth round TKO. Liam?
Yeah, Usman decision.
Usman decision. I'm just going to have to be different just for the sake of it. I'm going to go Gilbert Burns decision. Just because I like throwing on an outside bet. I'm going to back that on Paddy Power this weekend. Gilbert Burns decision. Again, Tim, I know you're watching. You're probably going to clip me up and tell me I'm wrong next week. But again, look, it is what it is. And just lads, just if you're watching there tonight, do check out Liam and Paul over at the MMA Opinion. They do fantastic work covering all aspects of MMA. And again, they do watch-alongs as well for the MMA events. So I tuned in on Facebook when during UFC 257. I thought it was a great crack. So they were drinking and everything on. So apart from Liam wasn't. But yeah, it was a good crack. So
My body is a temple, Keane.
Your body's a temple. Do you know what? I done dry January, so my body is currently a temple too, and we're 11 days into February, and I'm doing a dry February. So my body is currently a temple at the moment as well. So we're in the same boat. We're in the same boat. But on a serious note, do catch the two lads on the MMA Opinion.
Probably afternoon if that matters.
Yeah, absolutely. But on a serious note to our viewers, do catch the two lads out on the MMA Opinion. Do great work over there, and they do cover all aspects of MMA. And you know, they do fantastic work. So they definitely worth catching them. They do stuff on a regular basis. And again, do follow Jamie below me on Twitter as well for any football or any UFC related tweets and the occasional WWE trivia tweet as well. You do catch that on Jamie's Twitter too. So if you want to catch any of that, do catch them on Twitter. And as always, as you can see here by my Twitter handle, you can catch me at Keane_United. And for any football related tweet, if you want to see me banter a rival club, I'm always at it every week on Twitter. I got a warning last week, so I've kind of had to tone it down the last couple of days. But if you want to come over and see a bit of banter, you can catch me on Twitter there also. And we are live tomorrow on our United show, and we are joined by new guests as well, looking ahead to West Brom on the weekend, so do catch that as well. As always, do subscribe to the channel too. Paul's not a fan of United. He's a Liverpool fan, so I'd still love him though. I still love him for that. Even though he's a Liverpool fan, there's no hard feelings within the panel. It's all love. But do catch us tomorrow United show, and as always, do subscribe to the channel. As always, and look, as always, we're out here.